Viewers, a day after the High Court setback to Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, a special court has called upon the Lokayukta to begin a probe into the MUDA alleged land scam. The special court's order sets the stage for a 90-day probe into allegations that rules were bent to allocate land to the Chief Minister's wife on favourable terms. The facts, viewers, that have emerged from the court today are on your screens. Obviously, the Lokayukta will, within a time-bound manner, now look into these allegations. But first, of course, an FIR will be filed. Mr. Siddaramaiah, the Chief Minister, has come out and said that he's ready to face investigation and continue the legal fight. At this moment, he has not commented on whether he's going to stay on in office or not. A demand which is being made of him to quit by the opposition is also gathering steam. The decision of the special court came even as the Prime Minister, while campaigning in Haryana, lashed out at the Congress for harbouring, in the Prime Minister's words, Dalals within its ranks. Prime Minister Modi went on to warn the public against voting for what he called was a corrupt party that was only interested in serving itself and not the public interest. Listen in to the Prime Minister.
आज कर्नाटका में उनकी सरकार है, जरा देखिए, अभी तो 2 साल हुए हैं, क्या हाल करके रखा है। वहां कांग्रेस के मुख्यमंत्री उन पर जमीन घोटाले के आरोप लगे हैं। जब इसकी जांच शुरू हुई तो कर्नाटका के मुख्यमंत्री हाई कोर्ट चले गए। हाई कोर्ट ने भी उनको एक और डंडा मारा। उन्होंने कहा कोई मदद नहीं होगी, और कल ही हाई कोर्ट ने साफ साफ कहा कि जांच के आदेश सही है और जांच होनी चाहिए। अब देखिए, 2 साल मुश्किल से हुए हैं, आदत जाती नहीं है। क्या हरियाणा में इनको ये पाप करने का ठेका दे सकते हैं क्या?
The Prime Minister's attack means that the Congress is once again linked to financial and moral turpitude. An impression that whenever it comes to power, its leaders don't think twice about putting their hand in the till and looting the exchequer. At least that's what the Prime Minister believes, is what has once again begun to haunt the Congress. Has therefore the Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah, become the proverbial albatross around the Congress party's neck? Well, at least when one considers the High Court's observations. Viewers, let me take you through what the High Court has said once again. How and why the rules were bent in favour of the family of the Chief Minister is what is required to be investigated into. That's what the High Court said yesterday. Quote, if this does not require investigation, I fail to understand what other case can merit investigation, as the beneficiary is the family of the petitioner and the benefits is by leaps and bounds. It is in fact a windfall. The High Court goes on to say it is unheard of for a common man to get these benefits in such quick succession, bending the rule from time to time, unquote. The High Court also added in its judgment, which ran into almost 200 pages, and I quote, therefore the law was completely towards prima facie illegality only to favour the wife of the petitioner, as the very allotment of sites as compensation is said to be contrary to the compensation for land acquired rules 2009 and incentive scheme of voluntary surrender of land rules 1991, unquote. Last but not least, the High Court said, and I quote, it is too bleak a contention meriting any acceptance, albeit prima facie, that the petitioner was not behind everything, standing just behind the curtain. It is not behind the smoke screen, but behind the curtain even, unquote. But it isn't just about whether the Congress is brazening it out. The larger question is whether any inquiry by the Lokayukta can be free and fair when the accused Chief Minister is still in office. Viewers, if an inquiry has to take place, it also has to appear to be free and fair. We are not in any way here imputing motives. Here are some reasons why the continuance in office of the Chief Minister creates a conflict of interest that potentially raises question marks over the integrity of the investigation by the Lokayukta. Now viewers, the Lokayukta, for the purpose of conducting investigations under this Act, has to utilize the services of any officer or investigating agency of the state government. Now the state government, viewers, is helmed by the Chief Minister. He also holds the home portfolio. In other words, viewers, these officers report potentially to the Chief Minister. Now in 2016, the then Siddaramaiah government under the Congress only weakened the Lokayukta by creating a separate anti-corruption bureau. The High Court struck down the separate ACB, restoring the status quo ante. Viewers, state police officers are deputed to the Lokayukta state government, which has powers over appointment and transfer of police officers deputed to the Lokayukta. This makes it a little problematic. The police will have to constantly look over its shoulder. Only the very brave might behave like uncaged parrots, viewers. So the question that remains, number one, is can the Lokayukta inquire freely and fairly? Or at least, viewers, can the appearance of a free and fair investigation take place? Let me open this up. Let's ask some fundamental questions. And I want to begin first with Dr. Raman. Dr. Raman, look, I've only read out to you from chapter and verse the Lokayukta Act. There is a way the Lokayukta is formulated. In the past, as you know, the Congress government had tried to create an ACB, pretty much take away the powers of investigation from the Lokayukta. The High Court had to step in. Now, most of the cadre of the Lokayukta comes really from, on the basis of appointments by the government, as I've read out to you very clearly there. So, an investigation must also appear to be fair and free. I'm not impugning in any way the Lokayukta. The Lokayukta is also chosen by a 5-member panel, as you know. There's the Chief Minister, there's the Speaker, there's obviously the CG of the High Court there. There are 2 other officers. So fundamentally, can we think that the Lokayukta can go into this matter objectively when the Chief Minister is still in the saddle?
They can go into the matter as objectively as Justice Santosh Hegde did when B.S. Yediyurappa was continuing as Chief Minister for a full 9 months, when the charges were brought against him. I mean, you've got to have rules which are consistent for everybody. You can't have one rule for Siddaramaiah. Siddaramaiah has very categorically just issued a statement saying, I'm ready to face the investigation and continue the legal fight. There is no question of fearing an investigation, and I'm determined to face everything. After discussing with legal experts, I will decide the next course of action. This has been released just a few moments ago. So I think that this is self-explanatory. He says, please investigate. There is no problem. And now it's with the Lokayukta. The Lokayukta has got a 90-day period. But I want to draw your attention to what Kapil Sibal said about the governor suo moto sanctioning a prosecution without getting a magistrate inquiry done in the first place. That, according to Kapil Sibal, is something which will not stand the scrutiny of the highest court of the land. So clearly, even the order of the Karnataka High Court is likely to be challenged for the simple reason is that the Supreme Court has said the governor has the authority to sanction, but it has to be on the basis of something. It can't be on the basis of a letter given by somebody. It has to be on the basis of a magisterial inquiry which has done and found that there is prima facie evidence. Without doing that, sanctioning prosecution would not be valid is the argument of Mr. Kapil Sibal.
Yes,
Of
but
course,
I don't know if
when the
Mr.
matter
Kapil
comes up to the
Sibal is a
Supreme Court-
counsel in this matter, because Dr. Raman, this issue was raised by the petitioner himself, which is the Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah, by Dr. Singhvi, I think. And the court has also gone into this aspect of it, and I have already put that out in the public domain. So that matter has also been addressed. Now,
things.
I'm not,
There was
no, one
only
second.
one section,
Listen,
that
I can't go by what one
section is
lawyer
the
has to
only
say.
one.
No, one second, sir, please understand.
I'm just adding, there is one section under which the prosecution has not been upheld. Only one section under which the prosecution has been upheld.
It's
So
not
the
about that,
court's
sir.
judgment
This
is not an
entire,
unqualified judgment.
please listen to me, sir. Dr. Raman, look, I can only quote what has appeared in the judgment, and this matter was looked into whether on the basis of a private complaint can action be, or can prosecution be actioned, and there is a fairly lengthy response by the High Court on that point, saying yes, it is possible. I can bring that out for you if you want, but I just want to say.
Can I add?
No, just Dr. Raman, look, I can't play lawyer here. You see, please.
Section
I don't.
218, sanction for prosecution
Sir,
has been
even
dismissed.
that has been looked
You did
at,
not
sir.
mention that.
Even that
But
has
it has
been
been
looked.
dismissed.
Sir, you were not on the show yesterday, so don't
I
jump
was
to
on the show
conclusions.
yesterday.
So we discussed
I was
all
on
of
the
that.
show yesterday.
We discussed all of
has
that.
been
You were there then. Fine, okay. Now,
218 has been dismissed. Please
yes,
mention
we
that
know
for the
that.
court.
We know that.
Yeah.
One second, we know that. The matter will be challenged in the Supreme Court. Let's also not be under any illusions. But I want to ask you, you didn't answer my question. You said, you know, what happened in the past, this, that, the other. I'm only asking you, is there a possibility of conflict of interest, yes or no? That was my question.
But the Lokayukta is an independent body. It is
Okay.
not
It is
coming
only as
under
independent
directly-
viewers as the CBI is at the end of the day. Remember that. Only as independent. So,
actually,
if that
no.
can be a cage parrot, then viewers, I'm sorry, but you know, the cadre that comes, basically the police cadre, viewers, is appointed, or deputed rather, by the state government. That's where the apprehension is raised. Now, the point that you have made, Dr. Raman, about, you know, what happened in the past and all, that's a valid point. But
With Mr.
even on
Yediyurappa,
that,
BJP Chief Minister.
even on that, viewers, there is an issue here. If Dr. Raman were to 30 seconds suspend belief in his own sort of, you know, maybe convictions, then he would accept that there is the possibility of conflict of interest here. And the reason we are raising this issue, viewers, is because the Congress makes a great deal of conflict of interest. Even in the SEBI matter, where it is regard to the chairman of SEBI, Ms. Butch, they have made this massive brouhaha about conflict of interest. So, obviously, what applies to the goose must
also
apply to
said
the gander.
about-
Okay. One
Can
second.
I add? No, one clear point, Rahul, which is not really, first, in the matter of SEBI, there are clear violation of rules which are alleged. It is not just conflict of interest or a moral issue at all. There are clear violations. Whether that is there or not, eventually the matter is going to go to court. On this issue, now my only point is, Mr. Yediyurappa continued for 9 months as Chief Minister after the prosecution sanction had been given.
No,
And
I
he
don't think it was
waited
9
until-
months. I think
Yes,
from the little I know, it
it
was
was.
3 months. It was 3 months,
No,
sir.
no, it was no.
February
it was much
to
longer.
August.
After that, February to August is not 3 months. Rahul, which world is this? Is August 3 months? Maybe it becomes 3 months if it's a BJP chief minister. It's possible. I mean, these things are happening nowadays, so maybe it is. But it is clearly a very sizable period of time for Mr. Yediyurappa to have continued. And yesterday, last week, sanction for prosecution comes. You want this man to resign today, where he said, "I'm ready to face the Lokayukta." My
Okay, anyhow,
suggestion for the BJP
it's okay
is
because
go
at
to
that
court,
time,
ask for a CBI probe.
at
Ask
that
for a
time,
CBI probe.
okay, because at that time, viewers, when we talk about Mr. Yediyurappa, the Congress was demanding that he step down immediately.
He did not.
He may not have, but the Congress made the demand. Now it's not making the demand, now it's defending their CM. So again, if you say that the same standard must be applied, then it must be applied. Then the BJP is right to ask for the resignation. And of course, Mr. Yediyurappa, Mr. Siddaramaiah is within his right to say no. and brazen it out, that's fine, like Mr. Yadurappa. So if he wants to follow that example, then that obviously is his discretion. I can't step in there and counsel him, and neither can you. That is his choice. But fundamentally, viewers, the Prime Minister has made this an issue, and he is saying that this just tells you that the bad habit keeps returning, that there is something morally problematic with the DNA. That is what he has said today, the campaign trail, and warned voters not to pick the Congress. Now, Dr. Ranganathan, one doctor to the other doctor, can you at least tell me and answer this straight? If you believe, as a layman, forget about, Dr. Raman is a student of the law, etc., etc. You're not quite, and you neither have those pretensions. But I just want to ask you, is there prima facie, at least appears to you, like a conflict of interest or no?
If ever there was a conflict of interest, this is it. This is it. This is it. Let me repeat it 3 times. No, but good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, let me put it down in very simple words. The bold appear brave till they are bought. The crooks appear convincing till they are caught. The news is well and truly tightening around Mr. Siddaramaiah. The High Court was his last resort. MUDA scam is as open and shut as it gets. What are we talking about? It promises to upstage National Herald scam as the Kohinoor in the Congress crown of scams. You know, in the latest version of Microsoft Word, if you right-click the word Congress, the first synonym that crops up is scam. Try it. So the question is not that the Congress is corrupt or indulging in scams. Of course it is. I mean, the scam glut is such that even Congress leaders get confused which Congress leader perpetrated which scam. Was Raja in National Herald? Was Kalmadi in Colgate? Was Natwar in Commonwealth? Was Chidambaram in 2G? The cup runneth over, Rahul. No. The question is, when will the guilty get punished? And that is why I'm afraid the Congress is going to brazen this out. They know nothing is going to happen to them. And worse comes to worse, Siddaramaiah will join the BJP. Like Ajit Pawar, like Ashok Chavan, like Jindal, like Chaudhary, like hundreds of others who the BJP called corrupt and wanted arrested. Rahul, the incontrovertible fact is that in this country, you can fool all of the people all of the time. It is important in the next maybe less than a minute that I break down this scam in easy digestible bits for the viewers. Look, we Indians understand conflict. We understand interest. But I'm afraid not when separated by a proposition. And the same people who are asking for, if you remember, Ms. Sushma Swaraj's resignation on conflict of interest, on Ms. Scindia, who was then the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, for conflict of interest, are now saying this is not conflict of interest. This is a clear-cut case of conflict of interest, if ever there was one. It relates to violations by MUDA, where basically people received more alternative sites than they were entitled to in lieu of their land that was used for development of some prime areas of Mysore. Allegedly, Mr. Siddaramaiah's wife was allocated 14 premium sites in Vijayanagar in 2022. This was in complete violation of norms. And crucially, 3.16 acres in Mysuru Kesaru village that was transferred to Mr. Siddaramaiah's brother-in-law Mallikarjun Swamy in 2005. And then Mr. Siddaramaiah's wife received the land in 2010 as a gift. And then, miracle of miracles, the land was acquired by MUDA for development and the Chief Minister's wife was allocated alternative sites. The man to whom the plot belonged is the complainant. He says this was his ancestral land. Well, personally, if you ask me, Rahul, on the face of it, he also is wrong. Because in this country, all ancestral land either belongs to the Congress or the Waqf, assuming they are not one and the same.
Well, look, the case is open and shut, of course. That will be decided by the Lokayukta viewers. We're not going to jump ahead of ourselves here. But fundamentally, conflict of interest will swirl. Because, and let me tell you why, viewers, we're making this point. And if you just look at the bare act, the Lokayukta Act, just go Google it, type it in, go to clause 12, etc., and you'll see certain details. Now, I just want to bring that graphic back on screen. Free and fair possible question mark. A Lokayukta has to utilize the services of any officer or agency of the state government. Now, viewers, state government is the operative word. Agency of the state government, officer of the state government. The state government, viewers, is of Mr. Siddaramaiah. Of that, there can be no doubt. And in the past, the Lokayuktas have also said, in fact, the Bare Act also makes it very clear, it is incumbent upon the state government to do detailed background checks so as no rotten apples, no compromised officers, etc., are in the service. And if they are, viewers, then they're open to be manipulated. And we know how these checks happen, mostly in the exception. I'm not saying that this is the case here, but experience has taught us, history has taught us. Then, of course, viewers, there was an attempt to muzzle the Lokayukta in the past. Hopefully that now will not be repeated because the High Court intervened. What Mr. Siddaramaiah did in the past was to set up an ACB, a parallel anti-corruption bureau, basically, to render the Lokayukta completely superfluous. And the reasons are best known to him why he did it, but the High Court came in and quashed it, and no one ever went up in appeal, not even Bomai's BJP went up in appeal. Yes, the allocations did take place under Mr. Bomai's BJP. No doubt about that. But the High Court has already gone into those issues and prima facie made certain observations which I've read out to you. Then, viewers, the police officers who are going to do this investigation are deputed to the Lokayukta by the government, which has the powers to appoint and transfer police officers deputed to the Lokayukta. Now, you know how that works, viewers. There's a Damocles sword almost. No one wants to incur the wrath of anybody so they don't get posted to the boondocks. But anyhow, viewers, I'm not implying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that there is reason for us to assume conflict of interest. That's all I'm trying to get at. And therefore, I want to bring in a senior journalist with us on this show, as also Dr. Akashdeep Muni and, of course, Tushar Gupta. Now, Mr. Gupta, you've been listening in. You heard Dr. Raman. He says by who gave all this land? It's obviously the Congress. They should be, BJP, they should be investigated. Bomai should be investigated. Why are we getting after Siddaramaiah? The case is weak. The governor has acted out of context, etc., as Kapil Sibal has whispered into his ear, or he's read what Kapil Sibal has had to say, etc., the plenipotentiary of all lawyers. So anyhow, where do you stand on this issue?
Good evening, Rahul. I have been listening to you for the last 20 minutes, and I think you have been humongously generous today by saying that there is a possibility of conflict of interest. The way I look at it, the way any casual observer will look at it, the way the people, the electorate will look at it, it's a clear conflict of interest. Siddaramaiah is going to constitute a committee or will be a participant in the constitution of a committee that will investigate the wrongdoings for which Mr. Siddaramaiah is accused. And the prosecution acceptance has come from the High Court, even after he challenged it. He challenged the governor's plea that it cannot be prosecuted. The High Court overruled him. And today we have to sit here and believe, Mr. Raman here, that there's no conflict of interest. I'm sorry, I'm not as generous as you are, Rahul. I'm just not. But the problem, Rahul, about the conflict of interest, about the moral responsibility, in the last 6 months, something unprecedented has happened in this country. A sitting chief minister was marched to jail for a case he denied was a ploy of the BJP, a ploy of the Congress, but he was marched to the jail and he refused to resign. He refused to resign when the interest of the people were at stake. He refused to resign when the governance of that union territory was at stake. He refused to resign when it was about serving the people who he had made lofty promises a decade ago. But when did he finally resign? When he realized that the people were not with him. When he realized that it was about his political existence in the upcoming assembly polls. And we are seeing the same model being replicated by C. Siddaramaiah. He's not interested to resign. He's not even interested to contest the details because, as Mr. Raman just pointed out, he's put out a very elaborate tweet saying, I'm ready to cooperate with the investigation. So, Mr. Raman, if you think that the case is made up by the BJP, if the case is indeed weak, if this is some ploy of the opposition to target a non-BJP chief minister, what is Mr. Siddaramaiah cooperating for? Do you have an answer?
Not aware.
How can you ensure?
I don't think he's aware. Rahul, I don't think
about the case.
Is aware. You are not.
No.
I think you have not read about the case. I'm sorry, sir. The allotment is made by
Mr.
BJP
Siddaramaiah
government.
up for the investigation?
Are you aware of it? Are you
Is the case
aware
also
that
by the BJP
allotment-
government, Mr. Raman? Is the case also with the BJP government? Were the
made
land
the
parcels
allotment,
allotted by
sir?
the BJP government? Were
Yes,
the land
it
parcels
was.
allotted by the BJP
Yes,
government?
Yes, please go
No.
and read it. allotted in January 2022.
So why are you
For
saying
God's
there is
sake,
no case?
please
No,
go
no, I'm
read
saying
up
about the
on this
MUDA
one.
land parcels. MUDA land parcels.
MUDA
So don't
land
misquote me.
parcel was
No,
allotted.
no.
The Vijayanagar plots were allotted in January 2022.
No, he's
by
not
the
And were
talking
they
about
under
the
fair
Vijayanagar
Vijayanagar
value?
plot.
government.
He's
I'm
not
not
talking about the Vijayanagar plot.
Uttarakhand government.
So,
He's
no,
talking about
hold
the
on.
rest. Anyhow, one
Please
second.
See, again, Rahul, this is going on in loops. Please
No,
don't
one
interrupt
second,
me.
one
This is
second.
going on.
What exactly is the issue, Dr. Raman? What is your problem? I can't understand.
My problem is this land allotment, which you claim was
Yes.
illegal and resulted in a huge windfall gains for Siddaramaiah, was made not by a Congress government when Siddaramaiah was in power, but by a BJP government with a BJP chief minister and a BJP urban development minister.
Okay.
And if
So-
you are going to hold Siddaramaiah
so
guilty,
you're saying-
so be it.
okay, so
but
you're
those
saying-
who gave the allotment
Okay,
must
okay,
also be
okay.
held to account.
Okay, so what you're saying
That's
is
my
widen
point.
the ambit of the investigation. Who knows, viewers? It only might be that the Lokayukta comes out and gives Mr. Siddaramaiah a clean chit and all the BJP guys could go to jail. That can also happen. Anything can happen. Let's not, as I said, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I just want viewers on this point that Dr. Raman constantly talks about. See, the court has gone into it. And I want to bring in Dr. Muni also. We have got many doctors on this panel, but one patient. And that's me. Okay, so just one very quickly, viewers, let me just tell you. The court said it is unheard of for a common man to get these benefits in quick succession, bending the rule from time to time. Only Mr. Siddaramaiah's wife, according to the judge, got such a hyper valuable plot of land in lieu of what she had to give up. No other person who's had to give up their land has got such an expensive plot of land right in the center of the city. This phase 3 that Dr. Raman is talking about. In fact, the court says the law was completely towards prima facie illegality, only to favor the wife of the petitioner, as the very allotment of sites as compensation is said to be contrary to the Compensation for Land Acquired Rules 2009 and Incentive Scheme of Voluntary Surrender of Land Rules 1991. So basically, your land is acquired by MUDA. It should be valued at X and you should get X compensation, but what you get is X to the power 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. Because you get the compensatory land in a very nice, posh locale. So there is that problem. Now, whether it happened under the BJP, etc., viewers, I don't know. Does the BJP have a pulse on every bureaucrat working in that ministry? It should have. By all logic, it should have. Some slips do take place. And it is because, and this is again something that the High Court has pointed out, it is too bleak a contention meriting any acceptance, albeit prima facie, that the petitioner was not behind everything, standing just behind the curtain. It is not behind the smoke screen, but behind the curtain even. What curtain, viewers, is the question. And therefore, I want to again bring in Dr. Muni. Dr. Muni, you had been defending Kejriwal Saab and saying he should not step down, he should not step down. Finally, the Supreme Court said, look, you can continue to play politics, but you can't go to office, attend office, you can't go anywhere near office, and he had to then move out, which is seen as a obviously moral indictment. So much so that he also had to now move out of his palace. So I just want to ask you, Dr. Muni, there is right now the apprehension, prima facie, I'm not saying it, the High Court is saying it, of illegality, only to favor, in the words of the High Court, the wife of the petitioner. The very officers who are going to investigate this as part of the Lokayukta have been deputed by the state government, of which Mr. CM Siddaramaiah is at the apex. Do you think this is healthy? That's all. Forget about conflict of interest. I won't use big words. Do you think this is healthy?
Rahulji, the words called conflict of interest, propriety, healthy for good politics has been a passe in today's political atmosphere. I think that Siddaramaiah should resign if it was 20 years, 30 years ago. But today, interestingly, while the Honorable Supreme Court says that the CBI is caged by Home Minister Amit Shah, to whom the CBI reports to, and it has been a parrot of Bharatiya Janata Party. This shows a sorry case over the investigation. The same thing when the Supreme Court says that mass fraud in weapons can happen, and after that also, and Justice Kher said this, and after that also Shivraj Singh Chauhan continued in 2017 as the Chief Minister. Same was the case when charge sheet of corruption was leveled against Hemanta Biswa Sarma, and after that also he continued as the Chief Minister, still continuing as the Chief Minister. Same was the case when NJAC Commission was scrapped by the Honorable Supreme Court, and still the Law Minister continued. Same was the case when electoral bonds were scrapped and it was termed as unconstitutional, and still the Finance Minister continued. This shows today that the propriety has come down to a new level, and today institutions are not respected as it was previously. You reported at a time when railway
No, sir,
minister
but what is
resigned
your
after
position?
railway.
That's a little unfair. That's a tad unfair.
My point is today that if you want to ask propriety, you should first follow propriety.
Okay.
First resign.
So you're
first
saying
the
it is
Home
all
Minister should
passé,
resign.
this
Home
business
Minister
of
should resign.
moral.
Finance Minister should resign.
Okay, so morality and all that is
And then
passé.
after propriety.
Okay, yes, doctor, and yes, Mr. Gupta. Yeah, one doctor, yes. Okay, go first. Yeah, doctor.
Sorry, which doctor?
Dr.
Rahul?
Anand Ranganathan, yes.
All right, okay. I just wanted to make one thing clear, because Dr. Raman, while he's quite correct that those 14 plots were awarded to Ms. Siddaramaiah's wife by the BJP government, he is not saying the complete facts. The facts said that after Mr. Siddaramaiah's brother-in-law transferred that plot to his sister in 2010, in 2011 to 2013, MUDA actually acquired Ms. Parvati's land. And in 2014, Ms. Parvati applied for compensation from MUDA. And in 2017, MUDA granted alternative sites to Siddaramaiah's wife. And all through that, who was the Chief Minister? I let Dr. Raman answer that.
I will let me answer that. The
Who was the Chief
decision
Minister?
to allot 1 minute. Let me
Who was
answer
the Chief
that.
Minister? Who was the Chief Minister?
Siddaramaiah was the Chief Minister.
He didn't say
when
that, Rahul, did he? Did he say that?
No, I'm telling you, but it was not allotted. The government did not make the allotment. A decision to allot plots which was made in 2017 was not acted upon by Siddaramaiah himself. Even though he was the Chief Minister.
In 2011 to 2013. I'm not talking of allotment. I'm talking of acquiring of land.
Okay, one second. Let me just cut to, yes, 1 second. Mr. Gupta wants to also come in. Just 1 second. I just want to ask a more fundamental question.
The land was actually awarded to his wife in 2022.
Okay. Now, viewers, just a minute.
The entire issue is about those 14 plots.
Okay,
the
just
issue
a
is not
minute.
about the land which MUDA acquired. The issue is about that she was given 14 plots which are much higher value than the value of the land which has been acquired.
Okay, so why would she have been given this? Why had she been given this, viewers? So at least, okay, Dr. Raman is, let's grant it to him that he's right, that it happened under the BJP overvalued land. The question is why? Why was this favor shown? This quote unquote, not my words, again the High Court's undue favor shown. Even if the BJP gave it, viewers, it doesn't excuse the fact that land that is overvalued is given, which costs the exchequer a certain amount of money. That needs to be investigated. The question is not whether he's guilty or not. I'm not going there right now. Can we have a free and fair probe, viewers? That is the fundamental question. The Ombudsman will have to sit down and go into what Dr. Raman is saying, Dr. Ranganathan is saying, the courts are saying, the prosecutors are saying. But at that incipient stage, can we trust this investigation to be free and fair, or at least appear to be free and fair? Mr. Gupta, very quickly before I move on.
You know, just a note of caution to my good friend Akashdeep Muni here. 20, 30 years ago, the state governments would have been dismissed by the Congress. You wouldn't have the chief ministers resigning at will. Number one. Number two, you're talking about the institutions and the Supreme Court calling a CBI a caged parrot. Let's be very clear about one thing. even with the bail, Mr. Kejriwal, the former Chief Minister of Delhi, or the pseudo Chief Minister of Delhi still, going by Atishi Marlina's dramatics, was not allowed to perform the duties of a Chief Minister by the same apex court. Please
That's a
remember
moral
that.
indictment,
No, no.
no doubt.
No.
That's and now leave it at this, please, gentlemen. Those are facts which we can't run away from. They are there. Now, how we interpret them and all that, we are not getting into. That's not the point of this debate. It is about Mr. Siddaramaiah. We have 3 doctors, and as I said, one long-suffering patient here.